focus on the cities, because the cities are where you really have what's called sanctuary cities, and that's where the people are. Look at LA. LA, those people weren't from LA, they weren't from California.
Tonight, President Trump doubles down on his immigration enforcement strategy, promising to expand deportations in Democratic-run cities. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to West Coast Wrap. I'm Alex Savage. Many of the cities the president wants to target have sanctuary laws in place, including Los Angeles, which, of course, has become a flashpoint in the country's immigration debate. The situation in L.A. has calmed since last week's clashes between protesters and law enforcement over ongoing ICE operations. Late today, Mayor Karen Bass reduced curfew hours for the downtown area. The curfew now runs from 10 o'clock at night to 6 o'clock in the morning. The initial curfew put in place last week began at 8 p.m. We begin our coverage tonight with KTVU's Christian Captain, who has more on how city leaders in San Francisco are reacting to this order from the president for mass deportations in what he calls Democratic power centers.
On the heels of a week of protests capped off by No Kings demonstrations across the nation, President Trump issued his latest immigration policy announcement on his social media platform, Truth Social, reading in part, quote, "We must expand efforts to detain and deport illegal aliens in America's largest cities, such as Los Angeles, Chicago, and New York, where millions upon millions of illegal aliens reside. And that is why I want ICE, Border Patrol, and our great patriotic law enforcement officers to focus on our crime-ridden and deadly inner cities and those places where sanctuary cities play such a big role." Outside one of San Francisco's immigration court buildings, a lone protester said he was there to speak out against the administration's policies.
It doesn't surprise me at all. I just think it's really important to be out here and, support our neighbors, support, the people that are in our lives.
Although San Francisco was not mentioned in the president's post, the city attorney said San Francisco is ready to stand against the president if he increases enforcement here. Now, David Chu said the city has already successfully defended its sanctuary policies in court and is ready to fight as long as it takes.
We have defended ourselves in the courts successfully, both during the first Trump administration and during this one. We will have to respond based on whatever happens, but it's clear to us that every day this administration is engaged in unlawful action.
New York City Mayor Eric Adams said his city came out to oppose the president's policies over the weekend in a peaceful display of civil protest.
This was a very unique march where you had people coming from different parts of the city. 50,000, 14 arrests, no injuries to any member of service or to the protesters.
UC School of Law professor David Levine said it is unlikely that there will be a successful legal challenge to the president's policy, that the executive office can deploy assets in the manner it sees fit.
If the president and the Secretary of Homeland Security say, we think the big problem is New York, Chicago, Los Angeles, I think they can do that.
Levine said the concern going forward is that the increased enforcement could lead to more opportunities for demonstrations, more opportunities for conflict, and possibly even a pretext for the president to try once again to move in the National Guard or even active military. In San Francisco, Christian Captain, KTVU, Fox 2 News.
And tomorrow, attorneys for the Trump administration in California will face off once again in court over the president's order to deploy the state's National Guard to L.A. Last week, a federal judge in San Francisco ruled that President Trump exceeded his authority when he mobilized those troops over the objections of California Governor Gavin Newsom. But an order returning control of the National Guard to Governor Newsom was then put on hold by the Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals. And tomorrow, the appeals court, or at least a panel of that court, will hear arguments from both sides. And you can hear tomorrow's arguments before the Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals on our website, westcoastwrap.com. That hearing is set to get underway at noon tomorrow. In Southern California, police say they are searching tonight for the hit-and-run driver who sped through a group of protesters over this past weekend, hitting one woman. Images posted to the Citizen app show emergency crews responding to this crash in Riverside on Saturday. Investigators say a couple hundred people were marching through the streets here as part of a No Kings demonstration when an SUV sped through the crowd. Police say that driver then sped off after striking the woman. She was then taken to the hospital in critical condition. Tonight, we're learning some immigrants were called down to ICE offices in Washington state over this past weekend for unexpected meetings. An immigration attorney in Seattle says her client got a text from federal authorities. It was in Portuguese, asking the immigrant to report to the Tukwila, Washington office. It would have been considered a violation if the immigrant did not comply. The immigrant's attorney says actions like this only stoke fear.
The fear and chaos that this administration has been trying to create has been working. Many people who have legal options have canceled contracts with me. They have decided not to move forward out of fear. And it's these kinds of things that make people really scared to step out of the shadows. But I would like to note that these people who showed up for the texts are complying, right? They're under ISAP, most likely, and they're complying and they're showing up, right? They're following what they're supposed to do the right thing and legalize or file applications and follow the law so that they no longer have to be undocumented. And doing these things to create fear definitely affects people wanting to move forward or legalize or file anything with immigration.
And her client was released after a few short minutes, she says. She also says she was suspicious because her client had just met with ICE for a regular appointment before being called down to the office over this past weekend. A 19-year-old University of Utah student remains at a detention center in Aurora, Colorado tonight after being arrested by immigration authorities on June 5th. Caroline Goncalves is from Brazil and has lived here in the U.S. since she was 7 years old. Her family says a police officer pulled her over for a minor traffic violation and asked questions about where she was from before letting her go. Shortly after that exchange, ICE agents arrived and arrested her. Advocates say anxiety is growing across Utah.
People are much more anxious about immigration enforcement, about the possibility of being caught in an immigration raid in Utah. That anxiety is much higher now than it used to be.
Her family says her asylum application was pending and she was attending college on a scholarship for undocumented students. A GoFundMe account is now raising money for her legal defense. Tonight, police in Salt Lake City say they've made arrests in connection with a shooting that happened at a No Kings demonstration. It left one man dead. Cell phone video captured the chaos on Saturday. The shooting began as hundreds of people marched through downtown Salt Lake. When officers arrived, they found a 39-year-old man who was suffering from gunshot wounds. He was taken to the hospital but died there. Investigators say he did not appear to be the intended target in the shooting, but rather an innocent bystander. 3 people have now been arrested in connection with that shooting. And 3 arrests have now been made after demonstrations near an ICE building in Portland. Authorities declared this scene a riot, and they took suspects into custody late on Saturday night and early into the morning hours on Sunday. One Portland police officer was injured but didn't require medical attention. The suspects in this case are facing charges ranging from theft to attempted assault of a public safety officer. Portland Mayor Keith Wilson issued a statement on the situation and said in part, quote, "We affirm the right to free speech and expression while emphasizing that violence, destruction, and obstruction carry consequences." Coming up tonight here on West Coast Wrap, people started posting to social media when looters hit a store during a street takeover here in the West. And the store owner is no stranger to crimes like this. Coming up tonight, a look at the aftermath and why investigators believe they will be able to track down those who were involved.
An extreme heat warning is in effect for many parts of the West Coast, so maybe you want to head right there to the Santa Monica Beach, where it was 75 degrees today. I'll show you where it's going to be at 117 degrees with your West Coast Wrap forecast.
Also coming up tonight, crews sent to battle a destructive wildfire in Oregon talk about how their mission surprised them.
Damage for homes was incredible. Not what I was expecting at all.
Yeah, we were told a couple homes have been destroyed, and then we get there and it's just rows of houses are just gone.
They're looting the auto zone again. Look at, they're looting the auto zone again. We really need police to be on top of this.
Investigators are hoping surveillance video will help them to track down the people who looted a Southern California AutoZone store early this morning. Authorities say a group of more than 100 people broke into the South LA business during a street takeover. Images posted to the Citizen app show some of the people in that crowd. This marks the second time that same store has been targeted by looters during a street takeover. The last time the store was hit, security camera footage helped police to make arrests. Investigators are hoping that footage from this morning will lead them to new suspects. The Southern California doctor charged with giving actor Matthew Perry ketamine before his death has agreed to plead guilty. Dr. Salvador Plasencia worked at a medical clinic in Calabasas outside L.A. He's now facing up to 40 years in prison. 3 others pleaded guilty last year. The 5th defendant, the so-called ketamine queen, has pleaded not guilty. Perry was found dead in his jacuzzi at his Pacific Palisades home back in 2023. 3 people were killed, including a baby, in a shooting that happened at a popular festival in Utah over the weekend. It happened just after 9 o'clock Sunday night at the annual West Fest event in West Valley City. 2 groups of people got into a verbal argument, according to authorities. As the officers approached those groups to try to break it up, they say a 16-year-old boy from one of the groups pulled out a gun and started firing, shooting 5 people, killing 3 of them. Authorities say 2 of the people killed were a 41-year-old woman along with an 8-month-old baby.
We have a 41-year-old female bystander who was hit by gunshots and was taken to the hospital and passed away. We have an 8-month-old infant who was also hit by gunfire and was taken to the hospital and passed away. The 41-year-old woman and the 8-month-old infant were not connected in any way to either of the 2 groups of that original skirmish that started.
The 3rd person who was killed was an 18-year-old man police believe was in fact connected to that confrontation. The suspect was taken into custody. In Oregon, crews say they're making progress tonight on a wildfire that's already destroyed nearly 60 homes east of Portland. Fox 12's McKenna Marks spoke with firefighters who say they were surprised when they got to the front lines of what's being called the Rowena fire.
The small town of Banks didn't hesitate to send a crew out to the gorge to help fight the destructive Rowena fire. I spoke to 3 firefighters who just returned home Saturday morning, and they tell me what they saw out on the fire line. The Rowena fire started in the gorge on Wednesday afternoon. Within just 24 hours, the fire had destroyed at least 20 homes. As of Sunday, nearly 60 homes have been destroyed and more than 3,600 acres have been burned.
We had no idea what to expect. We know it was wind-driven fire in the gorge, so we saw the smoke in the dark and then the fire in the dark as we rolled into the staging area.
After Governor Tina Kotek invoked the Conflagration Act, additional fire departments in Oregon deployed their own crews to help fight the Rowena fire. Crews from all over the state came to help, including the Banks Fire Department. Firefighters Victor Haney, Jackson Herman, and Sean McGonigal had boots on the ground in Rowena and say the fire was even more destructive than they anticipated.
It's a small fire, but yet the damage that it, for homes was incredible. Not what I was expecting at all.
Yeah, we were told a couple homes have been destroyed, and then we get there and it's just rows of houses are just gone.
Yeah, many more than we were thinking.
Haney, Herman, and McGonigal arrived in the gorge early Thursday morning and focused on protecting the homes still standing from the rapidly approaching flames. Despite working 2 long days in dry, windy conditions, the Banks crew tells me they were successful.
Even after 24 hours of the fire starting, we saved some homes just by getting those hot spots and cooling it off and doing the mop up right around those homes.
Working together on a wildfire is nothing new for these firefighters. They tell me it's all part of the job, and if a fire broke out close to their home, they know the favor would be returned in an instant.
I think it's great. I think, we all band together, especially firefighters, a super close community. So whenever they need us, we go out and help them out. And then if something happens here, they do the same thing for us.
McKenna Marks, Fox 12 Oregon.
And tonight, the Rowena fire is about 24% contained, up from 10% containment yesterday. The cause remains under investigation tonight, and FEMA has approved funding to help fight that fire. Let's talk about our weather across the West here, and from Los Angeles to San Diego, a large swath of Southern California started off this work week with a lot of heat. A heat advisory in place today as we give you this live look tonight at the tarmac at Ontario International Airport in San Bernardino County. This is one of the areas where temperatures soared this afternoon. For more, let's bring in KTVU meteorologist Roberta Gonzalez tracking conditions across the West. They're seeing some serious heat in the IE.
Yes, absolutely. And there in Ontario Airport, we did have a high temperature today at 95 degrees, but that's still 11 degrees above average for this time of the year. Let me step out of the way because you see all those red highlighted areas. That's where we expect temperatures between about 108 and 117. Not so much here in the San Diego area, although they're anticipating temperatures a 10-degree jump from where they should be for this time of the year. Today, 110 in Las Vegas, 110 in the desert Southwest in Barstow. And Phoenix tomorrow, computer models are suggesting 109, but I'm going to go with 114. Now today, right here, you're taking a look at the Phoenix area at 114 degrees. You're going to want to head indoors for some air conditioning and a little bit of misting. They have those wonderful misters that just spray out some light water from time to time when you're walking around the downtown area. 81 degrees today in Los Angeles. Now that was at the airport, but it was 89 at LAX. And keep in mind, the average highs in the low 70s. And meanwhile, it was 75 degrees at the beach in Santa Monica. And there you have the city by the bay, the city of San Francisco, where the average high is 66. And today, topping off at 60 degrees below average. We head now north to the Seattle area. Lumen Field at 74 beautiful degrees. Lots of sunshine there. We're currently, it's still 72. 74 degrees in Portland. We're talking 105 in Las Vegas. Overnight this morning, the low temperature was 86 degrees, and that was a record, setting back and going back to 1937. It's 110 at this hour in Phoenix. So we had this little weak disturbance right here that passed through the northern portion of the state of California. Barely even saw it. What it did is draw down some cooler air mass and some gusty winds, and it scoured out that fog bank just outside of San Francisco. But most notably, what it's doing, again, the fog is free of the Bay Area, but those winds are whipping up around the Reno area as high pressure is building in, and you got that low all the way to the north. So the heat will continue in Southern California, but as you take a look at these red highlighted areas, that's where the extreme heat warnings are. Reno, you have a red flag warning in effect for the cooler air mass, the gusty winds, very dry conditions. Here's your forecast all the way through Thursday. Phoenix, I bet you hit 117 on Thursday instead of 115. Alex, that's way too hot. It's not even summer yet.
That is way too hot. Absolutely. Roberta, thank you. Well, this past month, we've seen a lot of hailstorms across the West, and now a team of researchers wants to drive directly into these dangerous storms. Fox's Rebecca Valentine spoke with the scientists who believe their project could potentially help to save lives.
While most of us are taught to take shelter during extreme weather events, dozens of researchers across the Great Plains region are doing the opposite, all in the name of science.
We're about a mile from the core now, maybe a mile and a half. Your natural survival instincts tell you that you need to take shelter and you need to hide from it, but you just know that it's about to be some good research and you are changing the world like one storm at a time.
Driving head-on into hailstorms, members of Project Ice Chip say these frozen chunks cause about $10 billion in damage every year across the country. Yet we know little about them.
We have really tough time forecasting hail size.
Project Ice Chip received funding from the National Science Foundation. Teams use special tools and high-tech radar to capture hail samples, measure ice strength, and more.
Plugs out. This is on. Yep, that's on.
While the research won't be able to stop hail from happening, teams hope to collect data to help impacted regions make better decisions about protecting property and lives.
We want to know that storm over there is going to produce baseballs, and that storm over there is only going to produce golf balls. And if we can confine and constrain those forecasts, at the end of the day, the end users, the people receiving that information, are going to be better served.
These endeavors follow a study published last year in the journal Nature, which says the warming effects of human-caused climate change will only cause larger hailstones to become more common. Deborah Valentine, Fox News.
Well, Costco is building its first standalone gas station in Southern California. That station will be in Mission Viejo in Orange County. It will have 40 pumps, but it will not have a Costco store attached to it. It will also be available exclusively to Costco members. The company reportedly says this will be its largest gas station and its first fuel-only location. Standalone gas stations could potentially help to alleviate traffic at existing Costco stores, which often see long lines at the pumps. Coming up tonight here on West Coast Wrap, the Dodgers' two-way star Shohei Ohtani making his long-awaited return to the mound tonight. Why it's taken so long for him to return to the pitching rotation. Also, see how a new exhibit from Ripley's Believe It or Not puts people in the Southwest in a hairy situation.
We have clothes made out of hair. We have wreaths made out of hair. But we also have the largest ball of hair in the country. And it's quirky, it's fun.
Newly released video shows a search and rescue team tracking down a toddler who got lost in an Oregon forest. First responders say the 3-year-old girl got away from family and friends at a campsite in Elgin, about 50 miles south of the Washington-Oregon state line. Authorities used dogs and aerial crews to conduct this search. They eventually found the girl in an area of downed branches. She was healthy, uninjured, and then was reunited with her family. It's unclear tonight exactly how long she wandered alone in that forest. Well, tonight, Dodgers star Shohei Ohtani is on the pitcher's mound for the first time since 2023. Ohtani started tonight's game against the San Diego Padres in L.A. and is planning to pitch 1 inning or maybe 2. So far, he has already given up a couple of hits and a run. Now, Ohtani suffered a season-ending elbow injury in August of 2023. He rehabbed for the entire 2024 season. That was a season that saw the Dodgers win the World Series. As a designated hitter, Ohtani is batting .290 with 25 home runs to lead the National League. All right, finally tonight, a new exhibit all about hair from Ripley's Believe It or Not is now open in Scottsdale, Arizona. It's called Hair Raising, the unruly world of strand. From human hair to animal hair, it is all about the facts of those follicles. You can comb your way through a dozen displays of hairdos and learn about the history behind some famous locks.
We have clothes made out of hair. We have wreaths made out of hair. But we also have the largest ball of hair in the country. And it's quirky, it's fun. Kids will find it gross. Parents might find it gross, but they also might find some really cool things.
The exhibit is at the Arizona Boardwalk. It also features hair from celebrities and historical figures, including the Beatles, Elvis, Abraham Lincoln, and John F. Kennedy. Everything you ever wanted to know about hair. Fascinating stuff. That does it for West Coast Wrap. Have a great night.